just gonna use this to, I think that's a little too high, isn't it? Yeah.
We have all our mics kind of there, so that way we may need to shuffle them around if we need to, so we can hear
Okay.
you.
No, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to introduce my client, Lantika Hancock, and also Dr. Derek Ford, President of the Dayton unit of the NAACP. So where do I start? This is a very incredibly sad day when Miss Lantika Hancock's life has been upended over a piece of cheese. I want to be clear, this incident should have never occurred in the first place. McDonald's should be ashamed of resorting to calling the police over a disagreement for an order that they got wrong. If they can't manage basic customer service and now opting to potentially put a person's life in jeopardy over a mishandled Big Mac, it doesn't seem safe, right, for black people to go and eat at McDonald's anymore. We understand that police officers have an incredibly difficult job. Many officers do excellent work and take seriously their oath to serve and protect. In fact, millions of taxpayers' dollars are spent on training and educating officers in an effort to put officers on the streets who are poised and ready to handle all types of situations. But what happened to Ms. Hancock is inexcusable, and it's a real example of how officers got it wrong. Sergeant Stanley deserves to be fired and charged with assault for his outrageous overreaction. The way he handled Ms. Hancock was despicable. He wasn't humane to her, punching her in the face, absolutely ridiculous. It's obvious from body cam that these officers came with a chip on their shoulders, looking for a fight, rather than to de-escalate. They escalated the situation when Ms. Hancock when she was being reasonable. And you heard Chief Porter. He said, well, her injuries were minimal. She spent the night in the hospital. She was head injury. She has a busted lip. She has loose teeth. She is limping. She has a back injury. This was brutal. And you can see from the video that this was brutal and so unnecessary. These officers, and especially Stanley, they don't belong on the force. He belongs behind bars. And to add insult to injury, this happened on Monday. This happened on Martin Luther King Day. So we talk about, how far we've come. Based on this, how far have we come? When an officer treats her inhuman, punching a woman in the face multiple times, punching a black woman in the face multiple times. This infuriates me. It really infuriates me because this was so unnecessary and it didn't have to happen. And it's frustrating because I sit here, time and time again, and we discuss officers' actions, de-escalation. What does that look like? Abusive, force, reasonable force. Nothing about this was reasonable. And, I hurt with Ms. Hancock. I really do. Because this should not have occurred. I'll turn it over to, Dr. Ford.
So you just heard your attorney, Michael Wright. Here it is, I was marching on that day when we celebrate the life and legacy of MLK Jr. We celebrate his life because he wants to bring people together. Community, police. Police, community. And unbeknownst of myself and Attorney Wright on this day, that would celebrate the man king, that this incident was occurring right before our eyes. And when I think about our client, because she also filed a complaint with our office, she filed a complaint with the Dayton Unit NAACP. So she has secured us from a civil and human rights standpoint as our client as well. And when I read through her complaint, and I talked to her over the phone, and as you can see, she's very distraught right now. She's shaking because of what happened with her. Police departments, through their APATA training, yes, they're taught that they can use their fists, but they are not taught to use their fists on a face. They're taught to use their fists on soft tissue, such as your arm. So policy was not followed in this particular case through APATA training. Not only that, Bowler Township has a good record in terms of going through the Ohio Collaborative in terms of training. Their training through the Ohio Collaborative should mirror, their policy should mirror the training that they took through the Ohio Collaborative. And nowhere do I see that punching our client in the face is a part of that training. Nowhere do I see pointing a taser at someone's head is a part of training. Training with tasers is that you are going to go from mid-body down as it relates to tasers. You don't point a taser at a black female's head. Dead wrong. He should also be on leave. That's our position. That here it is, I think about this, even though she's not near my mother's age, but this could have been my mother. This could have been my sister. This could have been my niece. And it's very disturbing. And we're going to call upon Chief Porter to do the right thing. I know he said that he's going to have a swift investigation. He looks to conclude his investigation by next week. And I hope that that swift investigation includes the removal of his officer.
We'll take a few questions at this point.
You talked about a piece of cheese. We haven't heard a whole lot about what led up to this incident and why the police were even called. Can you go into that a little bit more? Because you were saying McDonald's is a part of this as well.
Right. Ms. Hancock had an order that was wrong. She went back into McDonald's to discuss her order, to make it, to get it corrected. And the customer service wasn't good inside of McDonald's. They did refund her money, but they didn't like the way that McDonald's didn't like the interaction, and they ended up calling the police. Bottom line is that she had a legitimate complaint. They dismissed her. They just tried to make her leave the store without correcting the situation. She ended up leaving the store. They called the police, and she waited on the police. That's what she was doing. She wanted to tell the police her version of the story, and then that's when the officers, aggressively, condescendingly came up to her, and, you saw the rest of it on the video. So it had to do with an order that was not correct, and it was McDonald's mistake.
A 30-cent piece of cheese that she paid for. She had a receipt for it. And not only that, while she was in the store, she's telling the manager, comes and intervenes in the situation. And the manager tells the young lady to fix her sandwich, to make it correct. Well, she wants to be commander-in-chief. She wants to take the law into her own hands and say, say again?
The cook.
Yeah, the cook want to take the law into his own hands and say, you need to give us 30 more cents. She says, no, I'm not going to give you 30 more cents. Look at the receipt. The receipt says I've already paid for the extra cheese on my Big Mac sandwich.
So there was a internal argument between the manager and the cook.
Yes.
Regarding her order. The cook took exception and came from the back out to the front to confront Ms. Hancock. And, the manager asked her to leave. She left. She wanted to wait on the police to tell them her version of the story, and then that's how all this ensued.
Over cheese. Think about that. Cheese. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Ms. Hancock, I'm really sorry this happened to you. Could you tell us how you're feeling?
Well, one, I'm glad that I'm able to be here, to be honest, to tell my side of the story. I don't want people to feel like I'm complaining for a piece of cheese. The message behind everything is misconstrued. When I realized that I wasn't going to get the sandwich that I paid for, I repeatedly asked this lady, if you do not like your job, then you shouldn't have came to work today. Customer service, customers are always right. If we weren't, they wouldn't have made it a slogan. You wouldn't hear it on commercials. You wouldn't hear it on a TV show. They wouldn't say it in a jingle when they say, come to McDonald's. So I went in with good intentions. I came with everything. I brought back the sandwich. I brought back the fries. Brought back the original receipt. Even said jokingly to the gentleman that was standing next to the manager, I ate 4 of the fries. Wasn't sure if I should bring the fries back or not, but they're here. 4 of them is missing. He jokingly says, at least you're honest, because most people will eat half or if not all and say that it wasn't in the bag. It is our job to either remake it, give you your money back, or try to give you something else if we couldn't make you happy. All I wanted that lady to do was just follow the instructions that I didn't give her. Her manager handed her the sandwich, handed her the receipt. I just talked to her. All she's already paid for the 30 cents piece of cheese, plus the 49-cent piece that it cost at the drive-thru initially. You leave where the sandwiches come up to come and ask me to pay again. No, ma'am. You attacked me pretty much and was aggressive when I asked you, ma'am, why won't you just make the sandwich? I'm not your manager, so I didn't come back there and ask you to make that sandwich. She is your superior. She's over you, supervisor, assistant, however it works. She gave you instructions, And obviously you're not a cashier because you wasn't at the register when we all walk in. So therefore, you went out of your way to not do what was asked. Then you want me to leave. Yes, ma'am. But I want either the sandwich or my money, because you still haven't explained to me what justified you to feel the way you felt. So when you said leave, I will be in the parking lot and I will wait on the police officers. She's relieving the scene. I don't know if she drove here or walked here, but she's leaving. Yes, ma'am, you said to get out. I'm no longer in the building, but I will wait in the parking lot. Did I know that I was gonna be attacked? No. But I made sure that at least I tried to show that my demeanor wasn't threatening. I used that time to go outside and kind of decompress. I used that time to think about the decisions I made. Yes, I said, well, maybe, but I'm gonna wait. She doesn't want to hear my side. This is what the police officers are for. You call them to intervene, and I stayed to allow them to help us figure it out.
How do you feel about your interaction with police?
Personally, to be honest, I'm scared because that video shows a woman explaining herself, giving the evidence. And so when he asked me to identify myself, it wasn't that I'm trying to, what's the correct word? Be belligerent or try to say I, didn't need to ID myself. It wasn't that. It's over a sandwich. A sandwich that I have to literally now sign a paper for trespassing. I have to now go through all of this stuff when if it would have been done right, I wouldn't have had to come back. I could have been at home and ate the sandwich and the fries. But because I just tried to come back and get it at least figured out, I almost lost my life behind it. The reason why I said, I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to be George Floyd. They're not going to get me on the ground. They're not going to attack me. He said he'd get on the ground. You're resisting arrest. Sir, I'm not resisting. You want me to put my hands behind my back, but I'm crossed over. I said, how? I'm not fighting you, but how? You have my left, he has my right. You said place them behind my back. You gotta let go first. You gotta at least turn me around. And in the process of me motioning in the video to my shoe, you hit me repeatedly in the face. And I said, sir, what justified you to close fist me in the face? This is what happens when you resist arrest. Had you would have done what we asked you to do, you wouldn't be in this situation. So I shut up and I stood straight and I kept my feet planted on the ground. And I said, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to be quiet. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to say anything else. I just want it to be done. I'm in the video saying, I just want to go home at this point. It's not worth it over a sandwich.
I know this is really emotional for you and it's really hard. Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am. I have a little girl and she's 6 years old. And she was not with me at the time of this incident.
But I know this video has been making its rounds on social media, and from the body cam and the body cam video we saw, we can't see him hit you, but from the video that someone took, a witness that was inside the McDonald's that day, this video has gone viral. Has your little girl seen it?
No, ma'am.
And I guess that's a very good point. That's another thing. You saw from their press conference that they didn't show the video of her being punched in the face. You know, so based on their body cam, based on their dash cam, they didn't show that. It took an innocent bystander who was concerned about someone else to videotape this to get that footage. So had we not had that, we wouldn't have really seen exactly what happened. You know, you can't see that the officer was just punching her in the face from the videos that they produced. You know, that came from independent bystander. And what's interesting is that they didn't do anything or address any of this until that video went viral. It took the video going viral for them to do something about this. And, you know, they're putting them on paid administrative leave. They're going to take 1 week to do whatever investigation that they're doing. They're investigating themselves. So it's going to take 1 week for them to say that, you know, this officer followed their protocol, followed their procedure. We already know how they're going to come back with their investigation. So we do need somebody independent to investigate this officer and this police department, because they can't investigate themselves.
So what happens now from your perspective? Because you said that it's going to take a week for them, and you've asked for an independent.
Well, I requested a bunch of items from them. So I want the videos that they have. I want the dispatch information that they have. We'll do, you know, our due diligence to get the evidence that we need to further show that this was uncalled for. So we're still investigating, to answer your question.
Mr. Ray, as the attorney, and I know you've been practicing law for a while now, if you could remind us of that, I'd appreciate it greatly. 2 points I wanted to ask of you. Has the video been requested from inside the McDonald's?
The video has been requested from inside the McDonald's, yes.
And 2, out of respect for your client, can you give us the definition for future individuals? How does somebody trespass somebody off of property when they're getting services and are paid for services, and they have a minor complaint?
Yeah, that's, you know, that's a great question. The fact is when someone calls to trespass someone off of a property, they're not trespassed until they are given the information that they are no longer allowed back on the property. So they weren't trespassed at that point. You know, so what the officer indicated or what the chief indicated, you know, that's incorrect. They weren't trespassed at that point.
Will you be communicating at all with the McDonald's Corporation over their policy on, especially in this particular case?
Once I get the video, I want to see what happened inside of that McDonald's. You know, their internal conflict between their manager, you know, and one of their employees, you know, that's really what started all of this. You know, had they communicated properly, had they just fixed her sandwich and let her go on her way, we wouldn't be here. So there's a comedy of errors here.
And just think about what Attorney Wright just said about the video that was not shown, but the video that was shown to the general public. Think about a Walter Scott. A Walter Scott who someone was in the bushes filming. And if that video had never surfaced, that police would have got off scot-free. You know, think about this is getting me so frustrated. Think about a John Crawford III, where a bystander reported something that wasn't true, but led to the death of a man. And that's what she felt, in her own words.
You know, we're very, you know, frustrated by the transparency of this department. You know, again, as I stated, the videos that they showed didn't show her being punched in the face. And it's pretty interesting that they have every other view but the view where it shows her being assaulted, being, you know, choked. And this should not have happened. These officers were totally out of bounds. They were totally out of bounds.
And I guess, two questions here. Ms. Hancock, what does justice look like for you?
Justice is, for me, is for any person, whether you're a female or a male, no matter what color you are. Because to me, I don't feel that when you look at a person, you should see color. You would think with it being 2023 that we would be not over it, because that's not the word I want to say, but better than where we came from. They taught us all through growing up.
You want to hold these officers accountable.
Be accountable. Every action has a consequence or a reaction. And that can be good and that can be bad. But in that moment, I felt the only thing that could have been done in my situation was to be quiet. Once I realized there could be a point, because I thought about it, that I wasn't going to go home, I felt that what I had to say didn't even matter at this point. Now I just need to make it home to my daughter.
Right. Justice is accountability. You know, they didn't act properly, and they should be held accountable. And if Chief Porter believes that their actions were reasonable, then he should be held accountable as well.
The whole department.
Well, is it
We'll take one more
Is
question.
it possible that you will be filing a lawsuit against McDonald's and Butler Township?
Well, it's premature right now. I want to get all the evidence, and I want to look at everything and then make a determination. But we do know that at this point, McDonald's didn't do what they were supposed to do. The officers didn't do what they were supposed to do. And, you know, they need to be held accountable. So whether that means me filing a lawsuit at some point, I don't know at this point. Yes, sir.
How, in the light of with the George Floyd incident, how are we still here? I mean, how clearly something is
Is that
getting
a
missed.
question for him or
You're,
I mean, that's a great question. And as she told you, you know, Lantika said, I didn't want to get on the ground. They were trying to force me on the ground, and then they started punching me in the face. You know, when this is a black woman, you have two white police officers, white male police officers, that escalated this situation. She was saying, this is ridiculous. This is over a piece of cheese. This is over a hamburger. And you're going to throw me on the ground. You're going to punch me in the face. I mean, you're right. There should be different policing. You know, this was unnecessary.
But once she complied and told them their name, shouldn't it have been over?
Well, it shouldn't have even got to that point. It should not have got to that point. So I want to thank everyone for coming out, asking questions, because this is important. And this must stop. These officers and their brutality and their, you know, condescending approach, this has to stop. This is a mother. She was in McDonald's trying to exchange trying to get an order right. And then she's all over the news now, getting punched and beat up, and, you know, and this is online, you know. As we discussed, at some point her daughter may be able to, you know, pull this up and see this. If they Google her name, you know, that's going to come up. And this could have been prevented. You saw the officer when he was coming up to her. He was cracking his knuckles. You know, he was ready for a fight. You know, he was ready. You know, condescending, didn't want to listen to anything at all that she had to say. She was the one coming to him saying, "Sir, you know, this is what happened." He didn't want to hear that.
So just to be clear, you're asking for the officer's resignation, you're asking for transfer.
We're asking for the officer to be fired, not for his resignation. We're asking him to be terminated and to be convicted and to be charged. Yes, both officers, and to be charged. That's what we're asking. And we want an independent investigator to investigate Butler Township Police for this unnecessary police brutality. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
You know, before you leave the room, I'd like to mention to you that I just left that place and he told me, as well as some of these other people, that officer was put on administrative leave because of the death threats that have been coming in.
Yeah, because I wish I'd have said it because of the hate mail. That's the only reason that he's on paid administrative leave, because of hate mail.
Disgusting.
Yeah, that is
That's
disgusting.
disgusting.
It's very disgusting. That
Thank you for the time.
unnecessary. No, thank you all.
Yeah, I don't have a boss. I'm gonna make
Yes,
a
I was
sign.
trying to find you, and I knew that you were going to be part of this, and I think we've got some time, but unless there's, you want to say something real quick, it's up to you.